I suppose those initial 2 or 3 days when you're doing player exits and staff reviews and things, you're still everyone coming to grips with, what the opportunity that was missed. And, beyond that, you start to reflect a little bit about, I suppose, the wonderful advancement and achievements that were made during the year by so many players, and obviously Adam coming in as first-time coach and coach of the year. But then Saturday morning you wake up and you just you think about missed opportunities. So it's a roller coaster ride of mixed emotions. But full credit to the two sides that played off, and what a fantastic spectacle, and well done to Collingwood on winning it.
If we go back to last year's trade period, you lose Tim Taranto, Jacob Hopper, Bobby Hill and Tanner Bruin, and you bring in a player called Toby Bedford, who goes on to play such a pivotal role for your side this year, Jason. Can you talk us through the identification, I should say, of Toby Bedford and just what he brought to your side this year?
Yeah, obviously Toby had a fantastic year and was a great acquisition for us. It was something, like many, there's different stages where you identify players you look to bring in. Some can be really early in the piece. Some free agents can be 18 months to 2 years out, and it just varies. But with Toby, it was one that pretty much early last season, it was one we targeted, and we're just looking and watching that he's at a really strong football club in a great program, and he's just stuck behind some really good players. So it's not that he can't play. So we had discussions with his manager early in the piece and flagged our intent strongly. And you just sort of sit and watch it play out during the year. And obviously, with every time he was sub, as weeks gone by, the more sub appearances for Melbourne, the more confident you get that at the end of the year, you let him play out his footy. And obviously Melbourne went deep and Casey played in the grand final. Then when you get the opportunity to sit down with the player, you're really confident you can get it across the line. And yeah, look, he had a great year, and he unfortunately missed the first probably 6 games. Otherwise, people would have been even speaking about it in more glowing terms. So yeah, it was great for the club, just a great fit in a positional need, but also high quality character, and his speed and endurance combination with his toughness, he fitted in with our group from day one.
JC, Costa just picked 44, and that was probably fair given he'd only played the 18 times for Melbourne, mostly as the sub. But did you think he had this football in him, given the influence this year? I mean, he was the number 1 rated player in terms of forward half pressure across the season. Did you see this coming?
Well, we knew the pressure was there because of that speed endurance combo, and then he just loves to compete. So quality kid. And sometimes people talk about, and they look back at hindsight, you only gave up this, you only gave up that. Well, if guys aren't playing, it's hard to get a great trade transaction return back, and it just is what it is. So that's where it sat in that deal. And yeah, we didn't know. Like, it was disappointing, the hamstring injury in the pre-season, because he was flying. Like, day one, he came in and smashed our 2K time trial, so everyone sort of went, hey, wow, we've got something here. So we're really pleased for him, and he probably, first up, probably did exceed, we thought we'd get a good return, but it was obviously greater in the end, and as the weeks rolled on, he just got better and better.
Proving to be a real steal, Sarah,
Absolutely.
Just like Jesse Hogan was a few years ago. I want to ask you about Matt Flynn, Jace, because he's a free agent. The expectation is he explores those rights. Been involved with the Giants since the age of 12, was a member of the academy, been around for a very long time. Has he informed the club of his decision just yet?
Oh, not yet. And Matt's a wonderful person. Like you said, he's come through our academy, been at the club 8 years. But he's been around the program a lot longer. It's been through the academy and sort of NEFL footy before he was drafted. So we think that's how to land. Look, we haven't been in a position to offer Matt a contract. So him and Scott Lucas have done the right thing, explored options, and I think where it sits at the moment, and we've been working with him a little bit on this, maybe advising in the background to help him, and obviously Scott's a wonderful manager and giving him the best advice, but he's looking for that opportunity to obviously play more regular football. He did it early in the year with us, but obviously Kieran Briggs really stood up and shone through in the second half of the year. So it's fair to say he's probably weighing up options now between West Coast and Melbourne of what it looks like, but I don't think he's actually come to a final decision on that yet. So those clubs will hear more soon, as we will.
You mentioned the name Kieran Briggs then. He's probably been one of the most improved players in the competition, given what he did since he came in round 10. He re-signed recently all the way through to free agency in 2026. You've also got Braden Preuss out of contract. If Matt Flynn leaves, does that mean Braden Preuss is likely to earn a new deal?
Yeah, it will, and will. It's one we hadn't put offers to either of those two players in Matt and Braden, because what we're doing through the back half of the year is just assessing what we want that ruck space looking like going forward. And obviously, with both those boys, obviously Braden's missed a lot of footy with injury, so we're weighing up to, he got back and played some VFL at the end of the year, and then was just that continuity of training and playing some match sim throughout the final series to make sure we had a level of confidence in him potentially being able to stand up, because you don't want to, it's a position you don't want too many, but you don't want to be too short. So we'll be going forward with Braden, and obviously Kieran, and we've got Nick Madden who made some really good strides this year as a Category B option. So we'll look at sort of our ruck stocks in that light.
We're speaking to Giants GM of football, Jason McCartney. Jason, Nick Haynes started as a sub quite often in the back half of the year. He's contracted, but do you expect him to be at the club next year?
Yeah, we do. Like Nick, it was unfortunate in the end. Like the back line just evolved before our eyes. It started to last year, but just that back seven, or really back eight, because Isaac Cumming obviously ended up moving out of there and playing pretty regularly on the wing. So it was just so dynamic in the end, and they could mix and match and play on a variety of types, whether it be small, talls, and mediums. So it was really hard. But Nick, to his credit, he's obviously played his 200th game for the club this year. He's been a wonderful servant, and he was sort of sitting on the fringe there. And I know with chats we've had in the last few weeks, and even the exit interviews last week, he's pretty keen to try and get his spot back in that side. So, yeah, we'd be expecting to be playing on next year at this stage, that's for sure.
We saw two Pies become premiership players as brothers on the weekend, the Dacos brothers. Jace, how real is your interest in Elliot Himmelberg and pairing him with his brother up in Western Sydney?
Yeah, good question. Pretty exceptional, those two boys, aren't they?
They're all right.
Yeah, we'd really like to, like as a positional need. But, look, had some really good chats with Adelaide, a fair way out, because this one's a little bit different, because you need to be quite mindful and respectful that Elliot still has a year to run on a contract before he becomes a free agent. So we'll continually work through that. I know Adelaide's got a little bit on their plate. They're manoeuvring and doing a few things at the moment. They'd love to obviously have some coverage in that position if he was to leave. But, yeah, we see it as an opportunity. It's probably a role and a position that the club's done really well with someone like Lockie Keefe over a long period of time. And you think Elliot, sort of similar size and plays a variety of positions, can just really add value to your group at 25 years of age.
What will that mean for Lockie Keefe, Jace? Because if we go back to the prelim final, he was the only player on the ground in that game that doesn't have a deal for next year. He's played a lot of footy across the past 2 years, and I think his role this year has allowed Jake Riccardi to become a bit more of a permanent forward, which is something Adam Kingsley was looking for. Will Lockie Keefe go around next year?
Just in limbo at the moment, like just waiting. Obviously, it's an interesting one for us with not looking to be moving too many players out this year. List spots becomes a bit of a juggling act, so we'll just work through that. And obviously, we've got consideration for rookie list as well. So obviously, the great thing about playing right to the death is, guys are in limbo. It's only for a couple of weeks before they get more clarity. Versus obviously when you don't make finals, it's a tough sort of 6 weeks for some guys. So we're just working closely with Lockie and his management. Lockie's been an outstanding servant of our footy club, and it's just it's a tricky situation to be in, because if you had the list spots available, it would be an absolute certainty that he'd get another year. I know he's keen to play on, but yeah, we've got to manoeuvre a few things before we could actually be in a position to say that could happen with us.
Let's change gears a little bit. You touched on Adam Kingsley off the top. I mean, it's remarkable to think it's almost 12 months to the day that you signed him when you went through a very thorough process after moving on Leon Cameron. Obviously, Mark McVeigh filled that role for the best part of 3 months. How soon did you know that you had the right man? Because he became, last week, the coach of the year, voted by the Coaches Association. When did you know you had the right guy?
Oh, well, we're pretty confident in the process, because it was there were some really strong candidates. So just his assurity of how he saw and how he wanted the game to be played, the way he wanted he would educate it, and it was there from day one. Like even through the process, as soon as he got with the players, and the players have got great respect for the way he goes about it, and there's no ambiguity. They know exactly where they sit, and I think the greatest testament would be, talking to someone like Nick Haynes or some of the senior players with 5 or 6 weeks ago, how you're seeing it. And Nick was kind of on the fringe then, and he was just so complimentary of what he was seeing with Adam, the coaching group, and the program in general. So that's the greatest compliment, because he's a guy that's seen a lot, and he's just fighting for a spot in the side at the time, and that's really refreshing. But what we'd had prior had been really successful, but like with anything, there comes a time where change was required, and if you go through the process and you back your process, you give yourself a fair chance, and we feel like we've landed absolutely in the right spot with Adam. And we're just really excited of what the possibilities are for next year, because this is obviously, Adam, the first time in the big chair, but also an entirely new coaching group working together for the first time, and you could see that group growing together and gelling better as the season went on. So yeah, we're looking forward already to what can be possible next year with that group.
How did you watch his coaching evolve, Jason? Because we all know at the start he seemed very stressed. There was that stress ball that was getting absolutely worked out, and I guess he maybe took time to fit into the role. How did you watch it evolve over the year?
Well, it was interesting because early in the year I was down on the bench as bench coach, and I'm on the headset to Adam, and the message was just crystal clear and calm at all times. So I was probably taken aback a bit by watching some of the shows during the week in the early part of the year, of seeing the upward level of stress, because it definitely wasn't coming through in any of the messaging to either myself or the players. So obviously we made some moves. I went up with Kingers for a little while in the box, but then he really wanted to, I think it might have been Mother's Day when we played Collingwood at the MCG. He stayed down there for the last quarter. And I think in the end, he actually stayed down there for the rest of the year, and he just felt it was, a great situation to be able to just have that connection with the players. Obviously, I think what it can do sometimes too, it gives a little bit more freedom for the assistants up in the box to take a little bit more control and have a bit more of a say, because naturally enough, when the senior coach is up there, you're probably inclined to sit back a little, especially when it's a new group. A bit different if you've worked together for a while. So I think that helped him in the end, and it just evolved really well. So, moving forward, whether he stays down there or not, I don't know. But obviously he had some frustration too early on, because we're really competitive and we're playing the style he wanted us to, but it was only coming out in, 40, 50% of games, sometimes 60, but we couldn't quite nail sort of 80, 90% until that second half of the year.
Just on that coaching group, you obviously made a lot of changes to your footy department last year. 3 of your assistant coaches, they live away from their families. Do you expect them all to remain, and you retain them all heading into 2024?
Yeah, all the boys are remaining for 2024, which is great. And it has its challenges for the boys. Like Brett Montgomery, obviously family still in Adelaide, Ben Hart, family in Melbourne, and same with Craig Jennings. So we make sure that we've got flexibility around our program too, that when the opportunities exist to have that extra day at home and things like that, because it's critical, for us moving forward, because it's the same for the Swans. It's a very shallow pool of coaches in the Sydney market. So the Swans have been really stable for a long period of time, as we had been up until last year. So when you make change, you might have a couple that swing from Giants to Swans, but then outside of that, you're going interstate for your talent. So that's worked really well, and the boys are locked in for next year and hopefully beyond. But it's long term. The challenge is always going to be there, that's for sure.
Jason, just before we let you go, how pleased were you to learn that Bobby Hill was the 2023 Norm Smith medalist?
Oh, he was exceptional, wasn't he? He had a great year, and just like, obviously with us, he was a young player, and obviously last year, a major health scare, a young family, being a dad for the first time and things like that. So there's, from an outsider now looking in, it looked like just a natural greater level of maturity, and probably after the health scare and things too, not taking things for granted and trying to make every post a winner, because you just don't know what's around the corner. So yeah, fitted into the role really well, and it's funny watching him, because we've got very similar structures and things in place now. So if you're still with us, probably would have played a similar role. And but yeah, he just did well, stood up. He's always had talent, and his finishing skills are exceptional. So yeah, it would have been interesting, Sarah. Obviously, you were voting on that. I'm just keen to ask if the result would have swung the other way.
I know, yes.
Anything inside a goal margin, he still would have had to win it. But I just thought he was just, no disrespect to the other boys, but he was headed and shoulders above anyone else on the ground on the weekend.
Oh, absolutely. And he could have had 6 goals. We